Now, I'm back. I'm recording another one of these little practice videos. I know it took me a while, but you know, it's just it kind of is how it is. Now, this first hand is in a position where I think it's pretty easy to draw. Just start off with the main bold lines, which would be the first finger, the thumb, and then I just start coming out from that, making sure all the lines are good, and I try to make sure the proportions are correct. I understand that there's hidden fingers that won't appear as much, and that's why I believe this type of hand is pretty easy to draw. But I've started to realize that when I'm drawing, a lot of the times the problem I have is when it comes to drawing the actual nail in the actual finger to make it proportional, because I do feel like that throws it off a lot if the nail is not really placed correctly on the actual finger. Now, like right here, it's kind of placed correctly. I kind of feel like it's too big, and I kind of feel like it should be tilted to the left maybe a little bit. But for a quick sketch, it's not that bad. It's okay. It's not the worst there is. There is another hand on here that I think is kind of bad, but we'll see how it comes out as well. Just retouching the pinky a little bit. I feel like it's kind of too long. No, I'm not exactly sure why, but I do feel like the more complicated hands, the ones with like the awkward positioning, I do pretty well on those hands. Like this one, I think it's pretty awkwardly placed, and it's good and bad because one the I feel like the fingers are covered up for the most part, so there's not too much to do with the proportions in there. I do think when it comes to drawing the proportions, the most important part of the particular hand is the knuckles to the palm and the wrist. Everything else, it could kind of be, you know, you kind of have the leverage because maybe the hands in a particular angle where like the actual thumb isn't shown as much, so you kind of get past on that. But I think this hand came out pretty good. This one and I believe the next one might be one of the best ones from this bunch. I think I really should be drawing more of these hands and probably uploading more often, because this really doesn't take too much time if I'm being honest, but I procrastinate a whole bunch. Now the pinky was the hardest part about this whole thing. Drawing it in and trying to make sure that the actual end of the pinky, the knuckle isn't too blocky to make it look weird. And like I said, the wrist is really complicated here for me. It's really hard to get it to look not cut off and just botched together. But it's not looking too bad right now. I feel like when it all comes together, it looks a lot better. And I'm fixing the wrist a little bit, adding the pointer finger. Even the nail, in my opinion, looked pretty decent on this one. Usually, I have problems with the proportions of the nails, and then the actual thumb just hidden right behind it. Like I said, it could look off or not, but with the way it's positioned, you kind of get a pass on how the actual thumb looks. I thought it looked pretty good at the end. Now, I would say this one's probably the best hand of the bunch. Like I said, the complicated poses, in my opinion, are the best. And I'm not sure if I'm using the word complicated correctly. When I say complicated, I really mean when the fingers are not shown completely. So, like for example, this one, the actual thumb is kind of hidden behind the crease of the actual palm, or like the back of the hand a little bit. Now, I do think, even though I really don't take into account shading all that much, I do feel like shading will play a part of how good this hand looks. Because when you're drawing the actual thumb, you have to make sure it appears to be behind. I feel like I may have not done that as well as I should have. Right now, where I'm drawing, the actual ring finger looks at a place. It looks like it's like stretched backwards. But with drawing the pinky, it looks better. The bold lines on the actual thumb, I think, are not doing me well because it actually looks like it's in front of the back of the hand, not behind it. It really should be behind it. But I do believe this one came out pretty good, at least compared to the following two. I'm not really proud of the following two. Now I'm just drawing to make sure it doesn't look too bad. Drawing a few shading lines to make sure that it's shown that it's towards the back. Yeah, but when it comes to procrastinating, if I'm being honest, I don't know why it is that I do procrastinate as much as I do. There really isn't a reason. I don't. I feel like I have time to do all these things, but I just, for whatever reason, I just choose not to. I always just choose not to. Now, I think that this one came out pretty good. I do think I really should shade the interior line of the back of the wrist a lot more because it really does look like it's not really giving off the positioning that I wanted to show. But it came out pretty good. The best hands of the bunch, in my opinion. Now, like I said earlier on in the video, there are some hands that weren't very good. But I think the reason this hand came out pretty poorly is because the actual nails on the actual fingers weren't really proportioned correctly and they kind of gave off two separate perspectives. I think that really did make this seem off. But I also think it looks poor because of the fact that you can actually see every single finger correctly, so you have to make sure that the proportions are well well thrown out. I do not think this one came out good at all, but you still have to show off the bad ones, I guess. I really do think the wrist there's something off about the way the wrist just goes in together. And then hopefully I fixed the middle finger. I kind of drew these a while ago. Oh, there, I'm kind of fixing it a little bit. I drew these a while ago, so I don't really remember exactly how it goes. But it's not the worst thing ever. I think it's important for these still to be shown, so. Now this following hand is kind of like the one I just did. I do think it got a little bit better. It's not as bad, but the nails on the fingers are also kind of part of the problem on this one. I start off drawing the wrist, the thumb. I kind of feel like the thumb, if I'm being really picky, I kind of feel like the actual thumb is pretty skinny. Um, the length of the fingers may have been off a little bit, and the way they're turned, the pointer finger doesn't seem to be as turned as the actual middle finger. But I'm really just trying to nitpick everything I'm doing. On this one in particular, the actual ring finger and pinky finger aren't shown too much, or at least not at the ends of them. So that kind of helps me out a little bit. I feel as if the nails did come out pretty good. Not the worst thing ever. I do think I could have used more bold lines. I'm right here. I'm just trying to fix everything up because it's way off of what the picture is actually supposed to be. And now that one looked really thick, which isn't supposed to be like that. That's a lot better. But now, although I did kind of fix them, I do feel like they look a lot longer now, which I don't think they were supposed to be that long. But just practicing light sketches. The nail needs to be fixed on this one a lot. As you can see, I'm having problems with the nail over and over and over again. Even there, it still looks way off. It should be way off, way more tilted to the right. But that's how it ended off. Not the worst, but definitely not the best. I feel like when they're put together, they don't really look that bad. I think it's obvious which ones are the good ones based on the bold lines. I think the one on the bottom right is the best one. The one in the middle is pretty good. And then the other two on the left are definitely the worst ones because of the way they're positioned and stuff. And the one on the top right is the third. I do think if I just practice more often, I really could do better work. I really should be ramping up on how well they look, but I really just haven't been doing that. But I'll just keep trying this. Thank thank you guys to whoever watched the video, who even clicked on the video. God bless you. Amen.